Hi, welcome to the third part of the course Responsive Web Applications with Bootstrap and CSS. In this course, we're going to get familiar with content and components related to Bootstrap, which they offer, and it's like very nice, interesting components which we can use as some sort of a puzzles of elements in our web pages. My name is Farhad Eftekari, and I'm the lecturer of this course. I'd like to also mention that the big portion of the material of this slide has been created from the official website of Bootstrap, which you can also find it from here. They're always having this nice documentation every time they update and add new versions and editions. They also modify their material, so it would be always nice to check there. Before you also start with the material of this part, you need to make sure that you registered and accepted in this course in the portal, where you can find it from here with this link. And here are some typographical conventions which we may use on the bottom of each slide, so make sure you get yourself familiarized with them. And we divided the material of the course into 3 different difficulty level. Some students would like to just get familiar with the whole concepts, and some others would like to find out more about like the more harder and like more in-depth material. So it's also up to them how deep they want to gain their knowledge. And here is the slide framework. You can see the title here, difficulty level indicator, the slide number, the content, the course name and section name, well here, and the icons, which we talked about. So in this part of the course, first we're gonna see how we can deal with content, typography, list, styling text, code, tables, and then figures, and then main specific Bootstrap components such as alerts, badge, breadcrumb, buttons, button group, card, carousel, collapse, dropdowns, forms, input group, jumbotron, list group, modal, navs, navbar, pagination, popovers, progress, scroll spy, and tooltips. Very nice and very handy tools you can use like in your web pages in order to insert your own content and data inside of them. So as we discussed earlier, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and CSS also stands for Cascading Style Sheets. I don't think we're gonna encounter any other abbreviation in this part of the slides to mention it here. Let's see. As we discussed in the content section, so we divided this part into 2 parts, content and components. Let's start with content part. We're going to go through them one by one, try to also use them in practice. You need to already be familiar with these well-known and important HTML tags. Heading tags are one of them. So let's try to copy them inside of this sample file which we created in the last section of this tutorial videos. I'm going to place them here. I'm going to save it and then open the page. All right. Here you can see the headings from H1 to H6. It's always recommended to use them in the same order that they are having in your web page because of the search engine robots which they come and crawl into the content of your course. We're going to get more familiar with this stuff in Mastering Search Engine Optimization course. So here you can see that the style and design of Bootstrap headings are a bit different than default of the browser. And the other actually progress in Bootstrap, you can also use this paragraph tag and then assign this h1, h2, h3 up to h6 classes to them. Also works the same. Let's just try. So if we come here a bit further, I'm gonna just add one break here with classes. Tags. Okay. Now if I save it and just open the page, let's see what will happen. Yeah, totally the same. So it's up to you how you want to choose them, how to want to use them. Either having your paragraph and then allocate the class, or like this. I'm not really sure about how search engine crawlers would react to that. I think they are like smart enough to understand these classes. I think they are. Otherwise, if I want to use it by myself, I will still go with this same old-fashioned way. Yeah. But of course, you can also use it like this. And then to stand out some headings, you can also use this display 1 to 4 classes for like a much bigger size. So let's just also mention them here. Okay, I'm gonna copy paste this, put it here, and display classes. Okay, now let's see. Interesting, much bigger and much more visible. Let's see how they look like in mobile view, as we already got familiar with this developer tools in Google Chrome. See, now it is like a mobile view. Very nice. Right. Okay, now let's copy paste this piece of code and then we talk about what do they mean. I really like this part of the course. It's very, very practical and we can actually see everything, how they work in real life. So now when I copy paste this, I'm gonna just put them here. And yeah, let's open the web page, put it here, refresh. Okay. Now let's analyze this piece of interesting code. This is normal and this part is like a bit highlighted. It's because of this mark tag here. So it's interesting to somehow point out if you want to highlight something. And here you can see, I don't know del stands for what, but you can see this. Oh, it means maybe delete. If you have a list and then you want to uncheck something or make sure that something has been done, you can put them between these two elements, del, and then close it like this. Let's see what's the difference between this one and this one. Let's see. They seem actually very, very similar to me. Actually, interestingly, I also provided this definitions here. Yeah, it seems very similar, this S and del tag. Yeah. And this one supposed to be as an addition, so you see there's an underline here. And this one U, which definitely if you work with HTML before, it's one of these well-known tags like I, which stands for italic, and U, which stands for underline. And then a small makes it a bit smaller, as you can see here. And then a strong, which also makes the text bold. Same if you also put B here. And then you have to also close it with B. Yeah, and in EM also act like I, so the text become italic. That's it. In many cases, you may need to somehow deliver this way of communication with your user. Sometimes you want to insert underline, sometimes you want to highlight something, sometimes you want to just in a way like putting some line on the top of one text. I'm gonna also show you actually in our own portal. So this could be one of the examples. Here you can see like there's a line over these steps that a user finished working with, so you can see the exact same tag it's being used here. So that's the reason that we also are seeing this line. So it's really easy that when a student comes here, then they see like they already finished these steps because of that line on the top of this step. Okay, let's get back to our slides. And then we have text alignment, which Bootstrap is also using the same classes for putting this text center, left or right. I'm just gonna very quickly show you example here. So this last one, let's just create one div tag. Okay. I'm gonna just place one style field here. It's not a good practice, but I just want to show you how it works. So I'm gonna set the width to 100. Oops. Okay. Just in case, I'm gonna also place one background color for you to also see. Okay, let's put it in gray. Perfect. Let's see if everything is fine. Yep. Okay, now I'm gonna add the class here. Text center. Let's see how it looks like. Now you see the text is in the center, and if I put right, it's on the right part. And since the page is already aligned on the left side, so if you also put it here left, it's left, and if I just get rid of it, then it's also already left. Yeah. Good. Very important, this alignment. Sometimes you want to put some elements exactly on the order that you look for, so this center, left and right is very, very practical. Okay, now let's copy paste this code as an unstyled list. Let's see what they mean. I'm gonna get rid of this code, just place it like this here, save it. You see how interesting Atom is like pointing out this class name and pointing it somehow different from the whole other content of our HTML code. It's very, very actually eye-catching and beneficial. So we have this unordered list. Unordered is like, it's because of these parts. If we had like 1, 2, 3 or A, B, C, there was an order of this list, but we call them unordered because of this, not mentioning the number or characters in front of them. And then we also have inline, which instead of like being vertically, horizontally, they are like showing the list to us. So if I copy paste this, then you'll see this horizontal way of showing these items. Sometimes if you want to create menus, you can create menu items out of them. Okay, this one is very interesting actually. Let's see. So it means that when you are like browsing your page in a small device, if you remember about in the previous section, previous part of the course, we talked about extra small, a small, medium, and large, and extra large. So according to your size of the screen, then you are setting this font size of your HTML or body content. It's a very interesting typography. We call it responsive typography, to make the text more noticeable and get the best out of the space of your device. And this one is also interesting. Sometimes you like to show a piece of code in your content, so you can also use these specific tags. If I save it, you see this code part. And also here, if you have some sort of a mathematical formula, then you can also use this variable. As you see, it's may make the style a bit italic. And then if you have like text, it's a bit more noticeable. So the formula is, and now you see how it will look like. So this part is like regular, and then when it comes to this part, you see there's this italic text. But then this one is like regular. So these variables like become italic. So it's always nicer to use this predefined way of like stating the formulas. And this is also very interesting. Sometimes you want to give some hints to your users for them to use some sort of a keyboard shortcut. So you can also include them like this with this KBD. I think it stands for keyword. Yeah, could be. Yeah, very interesting. So if now from now on you see in web pages like this, then you know how they like created it. All right, now let's get familiar with tables. They are very important elements with table elements and the element related to tables, so make sure to understand them properly. So when you want to create tables, all you need to do is to use this table tag, and then in Bootstrap you assign this table class to it to somehow style it in a default way of Bootstrap. And then if you're having header part, then you can also mention this header in this T head, which stands for table head. And then TR, which is a row inside of your table, then you are assigning this specific columns. And then you need to also make sure in the same order you're like ordering your content. So for every row you need to actually go with the same order of columns. That's it. And because of this scope equal to row, you'll see that here 1, 2 is like bold. So in this table we have 1 header row and then 2 data row. That's it. And then here, by allocating this class name to it, then you see the color changes, and it's more noticeable that this row is a header of this table. And here you can see the border is like a bit more noticeable. So if you go back to this one, there are no border on these sides, right, left, and bottom, but there's already one on the top because of this row, because of the head. But then because of this table dash bordered, then you see there's a nice border around your table. And then you see this hoverable rows. So when you have this table hover, then when you are like having your mouse over these columns, then this line is being added, then the user understands that's like he or she is pointing out to this specific row. Sometimes for selection is also very, very necessary. And these contextual classes is also very, very interesting, practical, and good to use because of this delivering this kind of color codes to also users. So initially everybody think about green as a success field, red is like some sort of a warning or danger, and then yellow is like between green and red. So this one is danger and this one is warning. As you can see here, with the same order, you have these class names. We have primary, we have secondary, success, danger, warning, info, light, dark. It's nice to make yourself familiar with these classes, especially with these keywords, because you're going to use them a lot in your buttons, in your info messages, in your table rows. So they are like same naming for them as well. And then here you can see you're setting the background now to these colors. So this one was like table, and then this one is background. And then you see also the color of the text is also changed to white, because if you change it to, if it stays like black, then it's not really visible. It's always nice that you now play with it with these colors, and then let's see how they work in practice. Although there's a nice screenshot here as well for you to see. And then by adding this table responsive class, then you make your table also responsive. So it's also a nice practice for you to see. And then in many cases you see the rows are being like a stripped. So by adding this table a strip class to your table, then one by one they become like a bit gray, and then white, and then a bit gray. All right, now the last topic for this content section would be figures. Sometimes you're having images and you want to make them act like figures with the text like next to them. So let's see actually how we can bring back the image that we were using in the previous part of the course. So I'm gonna have this, just gonna use this code here. So we have figure, the class needs to be selected as figure as well, and then we need to also close this tag. I expect Atom to actually close this tag for us, but it didn't. It was strange. And then we have our image tag. I think the source was, let's see, it was img classroom.jpg, yes. Okay, and then we also need to assign class for this image, figure img, of course, image fluid. Yeah, I can make it rounded, why not? It's not necessarily to insert alt, but it's recommended if you also find out more about this image alt sections in like mastering search engine course. Then we have fig caption. Okay, and then the class needs to be figure caption. Then this is our caption, and then we need to close this tag. All right, Let's see. If I bring back this page, refresh. Okay, now you see here we have this image, and then this is the caption actually we place here. Let's see if we place like text center. What would it be like? I'm not sure. Okay, interesting. So you can also get the best out of these classes that we already get familiar with them. If you put right, definitely gonna be here. Interesting. That was cool. All right. Alright, so the other part of this part would be getting familiar with components in Bootstrap. So they are predefined, very nicely looking and very practical components, which we can get the best from, and then we're gonna get familiar with them one by one in here. So if you already still remember these keywords, as I told you in the table section, we also encounter them in this alert component. Alert components are very, very interesting and practical. I'm going to copy paste them here. Sometimes you would like to deliver a message to your user that something maybe went wrong or something was successful, so you can show these alert boxes to your user. Very practical. According to the situation, you can select the proper class for that. Actually, interestingly, in TechClass portal in the first edition, I was having this alert section here in green. But then in the other edition, I changed it to blue because green means something was successful, but it was just a welcome message, so we didn't really need to use this green one. So the color coding is very, very important when it comes to the design of your pages and your web application. And then you can also include a link inside of these alerts or whatever content you would like to, image or something. But if you want to insert a link, then you can have this alert link class. And then a link will be mentioned here. And as you can see, it will make it bold and a specific color according to the class that you are using for your alert. And then if you have additional content, then this nice class, if you include it, if you assign a paragraph and then have this class assigned to the paragraph, then you can also see this additional part. This horizontal line also will draw this line for us in here. And then sometimes you like to add this missing close button, then you can also have it like this here. Let's actually test it here. I'm going to copy paste it here. Save it. So now you have the button here. Then we need to add some JavaScript code in order to make this part invisible when we click on it. Perfect. All right, now let's get familiar with badge component. So in many cases, you see when you have some text here, there is a number, the number of notifications, messages, or like this here, you can see new. So we call those components badge components. All we need to do is to create a span tag and then give them these class names, badge, and then the style of the badge. So it's always important that you need to mention them both. Let's just save them. See here. But now let me just get rid of this badge class. See, the styling and everything of them is like totally changed. and it's being treated as a same text, but because of this badge secondary, the style is being adopted, but it's not badge anymore. So we need to actually mention this badge class as well. Let's see what will happen if we actually only mention the badge but not the style. In my opinion, the text will be like this but no color. Yeah, true. And now if we add the class, then yeah, the style will change. Good to know. I'm gonna just change it to 5. Yeah. So you see here, according to the size of the text, the size of this badge also changes. Actually, later we'll also get familiar with buttons, but just for you to see, you can mix these components together. Here we have the button tag here, and then we have these notifications, and then we are using badge component like this here. Let's see how it looks like. Very good looking. Let's just create another button, name it messages, and then oops, nice. Okay, this part is very also interesting and colorful. As I told you before about these keywords, they are very important. We encounter them a lot. We are like getting the best out of colors and styles in many different components, so it's always nice to try to memorize them. I'm usually against memorizing things, but such a stuff are very actually practical. So you need to know primary stands for this color, secondary, success, danger, warning, info, light, and dark. And of course you can modify them, but I don't recommend you to do that because users are already familiar with these colors and what do they mean. So if you show a danger message in this green box, then the users consider them as a success message. So these colors are very important, and I recommend you to use them accordingly. And here you see they are a bit more rounded. If you include this badge pill, they become like a pill. Let's see. Okay. Actually, I want to add some break. Okay. And now let's see. Very good looking. Because of this size, it's a bit bigger, so that's why the group of our badges are a bit bigger than the size of them compared to the first one. And of course, you can also use badge class for your links as well. So if you mouse over them, you see they are being shown as links. Let me just get rid of them. Okay. Yeah. See, when I have my mouse over them, the color changes a little bit. But if you get back to the other ones, see, nothing changes. But because they are links, they become a bit darker. This one is already too dark, so you cannot become darker than this color. Now let's get familiar with Breadcrumb. It's a very nice, interesting component to somehow let the user navigate through your web pages. So when you actually send the user to some certain page, then you give them ability to get back in like some upper category or something. Let's just save this piece of code. All right. So now you see in the first one, we only have one And active also means the one that we already actually are there. And then here you can see the second one, we have home, and then there is like a link here for home that we need to actually put insert the proper link for the user to go. Actually, let's just remove this for you to also see. You don't really need to provide the link if you don't want the user to browse around. So here now you see it's black, but this one, because it's active, it's a bit gray. So this is what actually this active class does to the link. If I remove it from the first one and refresh, it will probably be black. Yeah, that's it. Very interesting component to give the user ability to go back and one level or two level up. All right, now let's get familiar with buttons, button component. As I mentioned before, you can also see here we have still this color codings. So you're already familiar with the colors, hopefully. So first we need to mention the BTN class to give the required styles and CSS rules for a button, and then applying the button color, like many other cases that we had with badges and the others. So here you can see now they are buttons. And when I mouse over on them, then you see the color becomes a bit darker. And then also if you use this outline class instead of without using it, then you see the inner fill of the color becomes a bit actually becomes white instead of filled with color. Let's just place a break here, and then if I copy paste it again, now you see when I mouse over on them, then the color becomes like the normal button. It's up to the design of your web pages and your website, how you want to use them. And then here you see we have also button large or button small, or block buttons, which is like the full size of the width. So it's also nice to use them sometimes. Just for example, let's just let me just remove this. Let's just pick one of these buttons, and then was it btn-lg? Let's see. Yep. So see, this one is a bit larger than this one, and I would like to also bring the small one. I'm gonna use SM. I think this one is medium, so we don't need to mention medium unless there's no point of actually write MD. Yeah, totally same size without even mentioning them. And now let's use these block buttons. Sometimes you like to actually have a full size button. So here you can see they're like block buttons. Very interesting and good looking. And also we can define a state to a button by placing this active class. So they will like, seems like you already pressed them. So the color would be a bit darker. You can also try it by yourself to see. And then if you mention this disabled keyword here, then the button will not work. Sometimes you want to deprive, I don't know, users in order to not click on some buttons. See, if I mouse over them, it's like nothing is happening. So that's why we call them disabled. Yeah, okay, fine. Here were the buttons and the classes which was like related to the buttons. All right, now let's get familiar with Checkbox as a component in Bootstrap. I'm going to copy paste this code here, get rid of the button code which we already used. Here you can see now they act like checkbox, and later when we add this JavaScript functionality, then we can actually select them as well. So let's see why the first one is already checked, because of this little guy here. So if I add this to the third one as well and refresh the page, okay, nothing happens. Let's see why. Let's see. Let me just remove this first one. There should be checkbox, not radio buttons. All right. Checkbox. It's because maybe this one is active. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the look and design of the checkbox was because of this active class, and probably when we submit this form, which this checkbox includes in this form, then it will consider this check element and send the value as a true or false to where we are actually submitting the form. So now if I refresh it, now you see when I include this active class to the button, to the item of the checkbox, then both of them get checked. Yeah, so nice thing to consider. But just because it check is like here, it's not necessarily showing the user that it's got checked. So you should also change this class in a JavaScript that user selected that. It's a bit out of the scope of this course, this JavaScript part, but it could be easy to actually do that. All right. And same about checkbox. We also have radio buttons. In radio buttons, you're only allowed to select one item, so you can only have one radio button as selected, unlike checkbox. Here you see like this, and then also this active part is here, and then the checked also here. That's a bit, I'm quite sure if I also include active here, it will show you, yeah, but it doesn't make sense. So when we have radio buttons, we should, especially if they have like same name. See here, the options are these ones, and then the name is the one actually showing and sending the data according to that. So if I select here gender, let's just put it into female, male, and other. Okay, I remove this one. Yeah, it works like this. But as I said, we need to add JavaScript functionality. Perfect. So in a form, there's no way that a user can select more than one option here. They should be satisfied with only one option. Okay, now let's talk about button groups. They're also very, very interesting. Sometimes you would like to combine some options as buttons together, so you put them right next to each other. because of this button group you see here that you can see them. And then the buttons being inside of the div which has this button group class. You can also be creative about the colors. Yep. Change the middle one as well. Now they're more gorgeous. And actually for pagination you can also use this button toolbar. Let's just save them. Let's see how they work in real life situations. Yeah. So you're like somehow grouping them next to each other as a toolbar. So it's also some functionality. You can also define your buttons the way it's been defined here. And of course, you can also include the size here to make them large or small, not always medium. And then you can also nest your items in your button groups like this. So see, it's not very visible here because it's a screenshot, but let's just put them here, save, and then let's see in practice. Okay, because of JavaScript also we are not seeing them. Yeah, but this is how we can actually order them. So basically we have a div here, drop down, dash menu, and then these guys can work as the items. Perfect. And then we can also add this class, vertical class, to show them like this. So here was the points about the buttons and button groups. Very nice and interesting components to use. Alright, now let's get familiar with cards component. It's a very nice and handy tool in order to show some information when you want to have a image, when you want to have a title, some text, and probably a button. But of course you can remove any of them that you want. So we have the whole structure here as a card, and then it's up to you which one of them you want to use and which not. So let's just first see it. Yeah, well, we don't have the image here. Let's see, where was it? Okay, here. I'm gonna put our default image which we created. Yep, fine, okay. And see how nicely it like somehow put the image in a responsive way for you. So you need to make sure about the sizing and everything if you want to modify it. So, okay, in this case, we don't want to include this text part. So let's just get rid of this. That's it, refresh, and then that's it. Very easy. It's up to your own purpose and scenario that you're having, and then it will work according to your need. You can also change the color of the button or style of the button, as we got familiar with buttons in the previous part, in the previous slides. Okay, then we have this carousel. It's some sort of a very nice slideshow component. Let's just have it. It's a bit weird. Now we're gonna use like same image for that, but I tried my best to create some other images. Let's see, let's just save it here and then okay, image classroom.jpg. Let's just put all of them. It doesn't make sense, but I'm gonna place same image. Let's see if we can see the impact. Or let me just save black and white and grayscale of the same image for a second. I will stop the video and quickly do it and come back. Okay, now I got back. Let's see, I changed it to 1, 2, and then 3. Let's just save it, refresh. Let's see what happened. Let's put just them in a nice order. Probably it's because of 100 percentage. I'm gonna change it to 20. Or actually we have also block here. I'm gonna get rid of this block as well. I think it's gonna make the whole image very responsive. So what will happen now? Okay, interesting, but there's no back and next button. So now let's add these buttons here. I'm not sure if it's gonna work because we are not using JavaScript here. Let's just put image here. Two and then 3. Save. Same as story. Get rid of these blocks here. Okay, save. 10, 10, 10. Okay, now you see you're seeing this next here. Let's see also if here we have some sort of a size. Maybe also the other option would be we go to Bootstrap sites and go to components, and then let's see them there in action. So here you can see how they are being changed, and then the other addition would be adding these indicators on the bottom, so you see the position of the image as well. And then you can also add some sort of a caption alongside the image. And here also included this necessarily code that you need to add to your cursor. And also if you are using with JavaScript, then here are some options which you can add. Actually, I also got a bit suspicious about the behavior of our code, so I went to here and then see recently they added this popper addition here as well, so we need to also include that. So I added there. Let's show you the code. And interestingly, let's get back to this cursor code. And then you see also it's gonna work like that there as well. Probably. Yep. That's because of the sizing of our images. It's a bit not pleasant, but at least it's working. So, yep, now I see like some of the problems with like things not being properly loaded with JavaScript was because of that popper not getting loaded properly. Let's also see if now there's any issues. Yeah, everything now is fine. I'm a bit actually pissed off about this thing. Let's see here if it's been mentioned. Here is fine. JS is, yeah. Yep. Time to time they change it, so last time that I was actually creating the material and the slides, it wasn't available there, but now it is. But now it's good. Now everything gonna work properly according to our expectations. Let's now work with collapse. It's also a very interesting and beneficial component as any other components. Here, when I press the buttons, it will either show and hide them, but it will somehow collapse in a way that make them show or not show. So the way it works is this ID here, and then we are passing this bookmark here as a link. So when we press these buttons, and then they see if they're already visible or invisible. Here is also a very nice example. It's a very handy tool when you have like your content being shown as an accordion. Gonna save it. Show it like here. See, it works like this. So now let's analyze this code a bit, if we can. So you see we have different IDs here. The whole accordion link here. And then also we have these links here. When you press them, then one of them is being shown and the other become invisible. See? It's nice for you to also browse around this code and then see how it works, get more familiar with it. Perfect. Now let's see drop downs. Now I know why actually those buttons weren't functioning properly, but now we know. As I suspected, it was some JavaScript issue, but I didn't want to investigate that much because, like I said, not the target of this course. We are mainly interested in Bootstrap and design part. Alright, now you see here we have this drop down. When you press, you have the option of selecting one item. When you select them, actually, then you have this JavaScript freedom for yourself to create some code about it and then do some actions. Whether you want to send some request to the server or change something in the front side. And of course, like any other components which we were like working with colors, and you can also allocate a specific nice color about it, and then the sizing also the same with the large and a small and extra small sizes. Then you can also, instead of drop down, you put it drop up by using this class. Let's see if we can actually do that. I'm not sure if now we are like on the top of the page how it's gonna react, but we can see. Yep. Let's see. Do we need to change this? Ah, yeah, interesting. This one becomes like this, but since we are like on the top of the page, acting a bit strange, let's just put some space there to see if it's gonna make it work. Yeah, now that we have a space here, then the item is being shown there. And it's a very good thing actually, because if we didn't have that sufficient amount of space, then it was invisible somehow there. So it's a nice thing that tries to show you at least the item and menu. And then we can include one of the items, assign this class, and then this line is being added. Somehow separate the menu and items. And also we can have this disabled class, and then one of them, it's not going to work with mouse over or selection. Perfect. Now let's get familiar with form components. There are many nice components which makes it easier for us to work with forms, and they are very, very important, because in many cases you need to somehow interact with your users, ask them something, make them fill a form. So then you see Bootstrap makes it much more gorgeous when it comes to working with forms, with the buttons, checkbox, your text box. So it's really nice and handy components. Sometimes you have file input. It's very nice for yourself to also go and get yourself more familiar. You already know about this sizing with this LG, SM, XS. So it's nice to play with them and change the sizing of them. Here also there's this nice read-only addition, which it will make it for the user just to see it, not selecting or typing or writing anything. Let's just add it to the password here, text box. Let's see how it works with password. Let me find it, maybe here, yeah. Oh, the email one, yeah. I added this email text box, this read-only text here. So now I cannot write anything here or select it because of this read-only attribute. And then you have the option of adding some text or icons here, make it more appealing, or give some hints to the user to how you want them to fill these forms. It's also very interesting. And then of course with this sizing as well. Let's just add this, and then let's see these interesting parts here. See, it's a very nice hint for the user that we expect them to insert email address there by having that icon there. Save it, refresh. Yeah, see, very interestingly looking, and two different sizes. You can of course also add buttons or some other component. Very, very useful and practical. Alright, now we discussed about form components. Let's just go and get familiar with Jumbotron. It's a very nice component, especially for landing pages, to show some landing or introduction content to the user when they are coming to your website. So see, we have the title here, some text, and then secondary text, and then the button here. Then you can analyze this piece of code to see how exactly we organize these contents. And then we can also make fluid Jumbotron by using this container class. Very nice and handy. And then we have list groups, which is also very, very interesting. In many cases, we want to show some options or links or something to the user. So we have the ability of showing them as a list of group here, like this. And then we can point one of them as active by adding this active class. So now you see, actually, once you get familiar with some of the components, many of the aspects are somehow the same with the other ones, like this active class is one of the examples. About the sizing, about using buttons. So it's a very, very interesting thing, and that's why the learning curve is like good. Like once you get yourself familiar with like the concepts, and then you can use like the stuff you already learned in like other components and other aspects as well. Like see here with this color coding, same material, same concepts. It's a great thing actually about Bootstrap. Alright, now let's get familiar with modal. Modal is also very, very practical component, and it contains like very small piece of code as well for you to also make yourself familiar with it. But in general, let's just save it. Let's see. No, it's not working. Let's see why. Oh, because, well, it's obvious, because modal needs to be, actually something needs to be clicked, and then this code is being shown. Let me just actually show you in TechClass portal how we demonstrated it. I kind of like for a second forgot the purpose of models. So if you go to enrollment page, see when I select one of the courses, the modal is being loaded, and then I can just browse around, close it, or go to the other one, and then the other modal is being loaded. So by default there's nothing here being shown, but it waits for us to do something, and then they get to be loaded. Actually by the name of the ID we are like assigning to the model. Very, very beneficial and practical component. And then we can also get familiar with navs component, which is a short term for navigation. Very, very beneficial as well. I'm gonna stop saying beneficial for each of them, because all of them, like in different scenarios, they are very beneficial and practical. Yeah, here you can see now. You can navigate with, like, act as a menu items and the whole menu. And also in a vertical way by using this class. And see here, you can also add the class name disabled, and then this one becomes not enabled. And then it gives you a button-like look when you are using it like this. And then you can also have drop down here. If you analyze this code, it's also give you some options if you want to have it like this in your pages. And then also we have navbar component. You can see here as an example. And the next one is pagination, which we already somehow got familiar with the buttons, but there's also this pagination class which creates pagination style. Of course, you can also use buttons in order to recreate it by yourself, but it's nice to know there's already a nice component for that. Let's see. Here you can see now the pagination in a very nice way. And of course, you need to also communicate with your backend or create JavaScript code in order to make it work. So it's just a look now. And then you can make one of them active. And the sizing also, you can use the sizing. And of course also with the alignment, where to put it, is it in the center or left or right. So then here are the specific classes for that. And then also by having this popper, then you can have this nice hints where you want to have it. Alright, now let's go to progress and progress bar components. Very, very good looking and gorgeous components and very practical. Gives the user a very nice and interesting piece of information about them. Well, actually now I place them right after each other. Let's just put some space between them. Okay. I would like you to see the number of the progress bars here. So see, you can see here, this one is 25% filled. The first one is 0%, 50, 75, and 100. This number and this number is very important. And then there are also some other options if you want to maybe show the labels there. That's also possible, to show the exact percentage number. We can add that, as you can see here. And then we can make the height a bit bigger or smaller. And we can also change the background. Let's change this one, maybe. No. And see, this class is still, we can work with it with this component as well. Same color code. And then you can also have different multiple bars. You can also analyze this code to see how it works. And then this good looking stripped look as well. Then you're adding this class actually to the component. Okay, this one is also very, very interesting. These animated strips. Let's just get rid of them all except this one, and then it somehow tells the user that the process is still is an ongoing process because of this class progress dashboard dash animated. And then these ones maybe would be nice also for you to read about them and find out more and try to do them by yourself. And then here we also have some limited further study links if you want to get to know more about creating models and this scroll spy with Bootstrap. Alright, so make sure to tell us if there was any mistakes alongside these tutorials or contents, and if there was any other topics which you wanted to learn but we weren't really talking about them, and if you had any ideas or give some feedback, so be in control and in charge of how you want to actually these contents be updated, because time to time we update them and also include new contents, and also you always have access with the new and updated materials even if you complete the course. So it was really nice to have you for this part of the course. Looking forward for the last and next and last part of the course. Thank you for your consideration. It was a very nice and practical part actually, and looking forward to see you on the next part.